second episode of Extraordinary Women. I'm your host, Vashti Moore. I have a special guest with me today, you guys. She goes by the name of Miss Evergreen State from Washington State, but she also goes by Miss Jamerika. How are you, Jamerika? How you doing?
Yes, thank you so much, Queen. I'm Jamerika, and I am from Seattle. I'm currently Miss Evergreen State through the USA Ambassador pageant, and my platform is a chance to succeed empowering youth in foster care. I was in the system when I was younger, and when I started my pageantry journey, I wanted to help other children and families who were going through the system. And I wanted to do that through volunteering and sharing my story. I think that sometimes people may have misconceptions about the system and particularly the people who are within it. So I really wanted to change the narrative for the better. Professionally, I'm a motivational speaker through my consulting business, Clever Jam Communications. And I talk about overcoming adversity in your life. And for me, that was enduring the stigma of being a foster child and just being able to connect with people from all over the country and the world has been such an amazing experience. And really just building upon my skill set as a communications professional is very fulfilling. I was a news reporter as well as an employee through nonprofit doing internal communications work, as well as doing direct service with youth who were experiencing foster care and homelessness.
Wow, wow. So you have a pretty busy background. You
Yes.
you do a lot, and I really admire that. So talk to me a little bit about when did you first get your start in pageants, and what sorts of skills did you pick up from that?
Yes, when I was a freshman in college, I was at my school student center, and we had a board which had different scholarships that you could apply for. And I saw the ad for the Miss Pierce County Scholarship Program, which is a local pageant to the Miss America system. And I decided to compete in Miss Pierce County, and it was such a life-changing experience. Other than earning scholarships, I developed life skills such as knowing how to interview for a job, how to dress for an interview, as well as just really being able to really solidify my identity as a young woman. And the friendships I developed over the years were just phenomenal. I actually just did an interview today with another young woman who did the same pageant with me nearly 12 years ago. And so these were very genuine and lifelong friendships that continue to endure. And I would say some skills that I learned from it, obviously, not just knowing how to interview, but public speaking, how do you carry yourself, and just really seeing my confidence increase over the years as I've competed. And for those who are interested, I would really encourage to have an open mind to learn as much as you can about pageantry. I would say social media is a really awesome resource because you have the opportunity to look at different contestants and any given system you're interested in. But I think also too, you get to see what it's really like to compete in a pageant. One thing that I really like is the community service aspect and being able to not only volunteer, but really build genuine connections. One of my favorite experiences from pageantry was when I did an appearance at a local event that was benefiting foster youth. And a young woman walked up to me and she was very nervous. She had tears in her eyes. And she said, You know, you're so pretty. And she just looked at me and her body language was saying, Please don't reject me. And it was at that moment when I realized that being a pageant title holder isn't about volunteering. It's not about making appearances. It's really about letting people know that they belong and that they're seen. And that's what I want people to know. That is what pageantry is supposed to be. So if you go into it with an open mind and a willingness to serve, it's really a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, I know going back to
Mhm.
the foster youth,
Yeah.
and you mentioning that you grew up in a foster care system and that your platform is a chance to succeed empowering youth in foster care. Um, Talk to me a little bit more about that. So what was it like growing up in a foster care system? You did say that that there's some misconceptions that do come
Yes.
with that. And I'm probably one of those people that have those misconceptions of it. So Talk to me a little bit about that. What was your experience like growing up in the foster care system? What were some challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them? And why is this so important to you that young people who are in a foster care system succeed in life, and that they too deserve a chance to be great and have a chance to succeed?
Yes, I love that. And I will answer all the points you just made. I would say my foster care experience was positive overall. One foster home that made such an incredible impact on me was living with the Johnsons. And I lived with them for about 5 years, but they treated us as their own. They loved us, they paid attention to us kids, and just really feeling as though I could just be myself and being acknowledged and seen for that. We did things together as a family. We went to church. We even went on family vacations. I remember going to Disneyland and that just really feeling like, wow, I feel so loved and valued and just having so much hope for my future. I would also say, too, living in that particular home, I also started to develop my own sense of faith. There were times where I didn't always have the answers about what was happening with my case while I was in foster care, and becoming a Christian and learning about other people in the Bible who had faced adversity was really inspirational for me. And it resonated with me because I realized, bad times do happen, but that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. And it also means that bad times won't last forever. And so those were some of the best things that came from my experience of being in care. I would say some of the biggest challenges were other people's perceptions about me. It was very hard. People called me and my siblings names, you don't have any home training, heathen, ghetto, just these really horrible things. And you feel so vulnerable and trapped because you didn't ask to be put into foster care. And to have someone make such a harsh judgment about you and not even take the time to get to know you, literally just not give you a chance, which is why I named my platform what I did. It's just, we have to give people a chance. And when we just write them off, dismiss them on site, we're really cutting people off at the knees, metaphorically speaking. And so that was very hard, and whenever I would just, be a regular kid or be silly, it was always sometimes viewed negatively by some people because they had that lens. They had those misconceptions. And I felt as though they were looking at me through those misconceptions. So as opposed to just being fun and silly, oh, now I'm a heathen. Oh, now I'm being ghetto, which is so silly, but it's so detrimental because when you're little, you're forming your own identity. But like I said, for me personally, I was a bit detached from it. Like, you don't even know me. You're not even trying to get to know me. And I also knew too, haters have always been around. I look at the story of David and Goliath and how David, he was laughed at before he conquered Goliath. And I always looked back to that story. Well, they mocked David, but David prevailed in the end. And I felt that would be true for me too, as I continue to grow older. And I have felt that is very much the case, that I have prevailed. And that is what makes me want to give back. And so when I think about other youth in care, when I'm talking to adults and people who want to know what they can do to help, we really have to let our stereotypes, our preconceived notions go and really get to know the children and really be willing to earn their trust. I talked about some unfortunate experiences I went through, and people have to understand, even if they're wanting to help, children and young people may be guarded because of those negative experiences. So we have to be patient and really be willing to earn not only their trust, but be credible in our actions, so it makes it much easier to develop that trust. And then I would also tell children and young people who are going through care that just because you go through a bad experience does not mean that you're bad. You are not less than anyone else. No one knows more than you or how, but know that you're not alone, that you're thought of. Anytime I'm doing this work, I always think about other young people and children who are going through the system. And really, too, having hope for the future. Sometimes things don't go our way, but that does not mean we are our circumstances. And we truly can go on to live happy and fulfilling lives.
As I'm sitting here listening to you
Mm-hmm.
talk about your platform,
Yeah.
I'm kind of reminded of what Steve Harvey does. I think he has, I can't think of the name of his platform that he has, but it targets young boys
Mm.
and really harsh circumstances. So young boys who are growing up in the ghetto, in the hood. And
Yes.
what he does is um, these parents, they send these boys to this camp that Steve Harvey has, and he teaches them how to be a man. He
Yeah.
teaches them how to he grooms them, teaches them how to dress appropriately for the interview. He also gives them pointers on how to talk to women. You know how Steve Harvey is. We all know how
Yeah.
Steve Harvey is. But I'm thinking, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking we need more platforms like that. And if they are out there, you don't hear about them as often. Nobody's really talking about them a lot. But one of the questions I want to ask is, since you've had this platform, what what accomplishments have you made with this? Have you seen some of the kids that you have helped or mentored? Have you seen improvement in their personality and their upbringing and how they present themselves and their success? And can you talk a little bit about those accomplishments?
Yes. To me, I don't look at my accomplishments as in terms of winning awards or even changing laws. I've given input into laws that have been changed when I've had an opportunity to meet with local congressmen and women, as well as working with child well professionals who set policies. And I have won awards too through my pageant, most photogenic, also won the social media award. And to me, those are great accomplishments. But to me, I consider it to be an accomplishment when our young people are willing to go out into the world and want to be participating members of society. And just some of the young people I've been able to mentor, just seeing them develop throughout the years, just really gaining their confidence as they continue to go out and do well, seeing themselves as being the things they dream of, whether that's wanting to own a business, go to school, become a wife and a mother. So I won't say names just to protect people's privacy,
Hmm.
but to see that on an individual basis is awesome. I would say also too, being able to give my feedback to child well professionals and Congress people is also awesome. I know one thing that we've done here in Washington State is create programs where we're not just automatically removing children from their homes or waiting until it gets so bad to remove them from their homes. Instead, we have programs where parents can work with agency on how to improve their parenting skills. Or if something happens, we can refer families to local organizations that can help them with looking for housing, with how to enroll their children in school. So we have these programs now that are more safety net at the onset than waiting until a family is into a crisis, 8 or 9 crises deep. And so those are some things that I feel very proud of. And then just meeting people and them saying, you don't look like someone who's been in foster care. And just having the opportunity to tell them, I don't think any of us look like any of the hard times we've gone through. Maybe some of us do, and that's fine, We're still here, we've survived. And however that looks like, that should be honored and respected. And so those
Yeah.
are things that I'm very proud of.
That's excellent. I really admire that about you.
Thank you.
Those accomplishments. And something else you mentioned that I wanted to kind of touch on too is that you are a public speaker,
Yes.
and I wanted to compliment you on that too. You speak very well, speak very clearly, and
Thank you.
I love how you speak and everything. But you say that you do a little bit of public speaking. So what are some recent events that you have made appearances at? And what are some things that you focus on when you're public speaking? Or do you, when you're asked to attend an event, are you asked to share your story, or are you more so just targeting what the event is about? And talk to me a little bit about your public speaking and what appearances you've made, and you know how they have improved your life skills and your professional skills.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Queen. Well, I've primarily speak at child welfare conferences and events. The last one I spoke at was the San Diego International Child Welfare Conference on Maltreatment. And that is one of the biggest ones here in the country, namely the West Coast. And so
Mhm.
that was a really fun experience. It was actually a pre-recorded workshop. Because of the pandemic, a lot of public events have gone virtual, and that has been the case with this one. As far as what I choose to talk about, it's really about the audience. And so when I'm talking to child welfare professionals, I'm namely speaking to social workers, supervisors, it could be educators, law enforcement professionals, and anyone else who comes into contact with children and families in the system. And so, yes, I will share my story, and I will also share what people can do in their respective roles to, to be supportive towards children and families who are currently involved in the system. I would say what's improved within me for my skill set is really just my confidence, feeling comfortable speaking. I would say my presence. I think sometimes when you are doing public speaking, it's really easy to get distracted. But as I've done this more, it's like, oh, okay, you know, being able to make eye contact with people keeps you present, but it also allows people to realize, like, wow, she isn't just speaking from memory, she's actually speaking in real time and connecting with us. And so that's really made it enjoyable. And I would say that's about it. I have a lot of fun doing it, and it gets better every time I do it.
I can believe it.
Yeah.
I would say, definitely the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the
Yes.
more comfortable you get at it. That's whether that's in public speaking, whether you are a nurse practitioner or a doctor, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. Um, advice would you have for a young woman? Let's say maybe late teens, like 18 up until maybe her late 20s. What advice do you have for young women out there who are struggling to find a path, who are struggling with balance and life relationships and how to manage that? I know with me, when especially in my late teens, something that I struggled with was acceptance, self acceptance of who I was, and more importantly, acceptance of how I looked. I grew up in a predominantly Caucasian neighborhood, and I looked different from everybody. So I never accepted or loved my natural blackness for what it was. But what advice do you have for young women who are going through that, where they just need to find balance and they're looking for a sense of direction?
Yes. I think when I look back at those years in my life, I always looked outside of myself to others or to the latest trends or fads. And I think it's important that as you're coming into your own womanhood, you really spend time with yourself, getting to know who you are. And you're also mindful of the friends you choose to be with and associate
Mm,
with. That will impact you in that regard. I would say like 90%. It's very, very significant. So I think it's important to remember that as an individual, anything that you're thinking and experience, there are many more people who have experienced the same thing. And I think that's where it's really important to be mindful of who we choose to be our friends and who we choose to keep company with. Because even when we have really good friends that accept and love us and trust us, we're still going to have those negative feelings about ourselves. Sometimes they don't go away, and sometimes you'll feel really great. But I've noticed that when we have people who are good to us, who are respectful towards us, and also to themselves, when we're feeling down, we can look at ourselves realistically and go, you know what? Today I'm not feeling so hot about myself, but that's fine. But I know that I'm loved and that I belong and that
mm.
people know me and they are thinking of me versus going through those experiences and you're with people who don't have your back, who talk about you, who put you down. That will eat away at your self esteem. And so
Mm.
it's really important you keep in mind who you choose to spend your time with. And it's hard. I understand you want to fit in, you want to look pretty, you want to wear cool clothes, but at the same time, you don't want to do anything that's going to be to your detriment. And anybody who is negative and toxic is not going to uplift you, no matter
Mm.
how pretty they may be, no matter how nice they may be to you. It's really important to be mindful of who you surround yourself with.
It's so interesting that you say that. I want to piggyback off a couple things you said
Hmm.
because I can relate to every single thing
Oh,
you
thank
just
you.
said. And
Yeah.
actually some of that advice that you just gave also, helps me a little bit, because I'm in my late 20s and I'm still trying to figure it all out as I go as
Yeah.
well. But one of the things that I've recently learned, going back to what you said about spending time with yourself,
Hmm.
that is key. That is
Yeah.
vital. Ladies, if you're watching this right now, spending time with yourself and loving yourself.
Yes.
Someone once told me, a family friend of mine told me, something that she learned how to do was she learned how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And you have to learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable so you can learn how to love yourself. Because once you learn how to love yourself and you learn how to treat yourself, can nobody tell you how you deserve to be treated or how you deserve to be loved. No one can tell you different
Hmm.
at all. So once you
Definitely.
figure that out, that's to me, that is the start or the beginning of womanhood. When you
Hmm.
learn how to love yourself and no one can tell you how it needs to be done.
Yes.
The other thing that you mentioned I wanted to piggyback on is toxic relationships.
Yeah.
I have had so many
Hmm.
toxic relationships, whether they were boyfriend relationships or best
Yes.
friend or family. More particularly, some of them have been family members,
Hmm.
and it's hard when you have to cut some of those people off because they have been such an important part of your life for a period of
Definitely.
time. But going back to Steve Harvey again, there's a quote that always sits in my head. Every time I go through something where someone is not uplifting me, I think about what he said to one of his audience members. And he said, everybody that comes with you can't go with you. And
Hmm.
everybody that comes with you in your life, whether it's the start of high school, start of
Yes.
college, start of your professional career, they can't always go with you to your next stage of life.
Hmm.
Because the thing is, people, we all grow apart, we grow up, we become different people. But more importantly, you want to surround yourself with a supportive community and a supportive group of people that's going to uplift you and love you. And help you, more importantly, help you get to your next goal.
Yeah.
You don't want a bunch of haters on your ship, trying to sink your ship. No, I'm
No.
trying to stay afloat. I'm
Mm-mm.
trying to get to the next destination.
Yes, yes. And Queen, I'd love to offer some friendly advice. One thing that I've always done since I was a child is I've kept a journal. And I think being able to put your experiences and thoughts and feelings into words is very powerful. It not only gives you an outlet, but it also gives you an opportunity to really figure out how you think, what's important to you, your values, and just how you experience the world, and to really get that out on paper. Really, it's not only therapeutic, but it gives you a sense of who you are. And it also gives you a written record of that. I mean, I still have journals from when I was 16. I'm in my early 30s. And so that's something I think every woman should have of all different
Yeah,
ages, is a journal where you can write down your thoughts and
I
feelings.
agree.
Hmm.
I agree with that. I just sent a journal that I used to have. It's an old journal because I have so
Yeah.
many other journals now too. But it's one that I never actually used before. But I just sent it to a friend of mine who's going through some challenges
Hmm.
right now with a relationship. And I told her, I said, "Do you keep a journal on you?" And she's like, "No, I'm not much of a writer or a poet." I said, "Girl, you don't have to be a poet. You don't have
Hmm.
to be a writer. Something that you can write down how you're feeling today." So it can be something as simple as, I woke up this morning, had a cup of coffee, and I was feeling happy. I was feeling
Hmm.
grateful. You know, just have something on record so that way you can look back on all those things and you can see how far you've come. I too have a
Hmm.
journal from, kind of makes me blush a little bit, but I have a journal that I started writing in when I first met my husband. And And the journal, it started off with how I first met him, and how our relationship started. And I look at that very first journal entry, and I look at my journal entry that I just wrote recently,
Yes.
and oh my gosh, the growth, the growth that I have seen in myself as a woman. It is both scary, but also the most
Hmm.
profounding moment that you could ever experience. When you see that growth as a young woman, it is the
Yes.
most profound thing you could ever go through. So I agree with Miss Evergreen State. You guys keep a journal on you. Keep a journal. Write down all of your thoughts, all of your emotions, what you're going through, and watch how much you blossom once you do it. You
Yes.
will you will blossom to this beautiful, beautiful flower. Um, Miss Evergreen State, Jamerika, thank you so much for joining me. Before I
Thank
let you go, I want you to shout out all of your social media, your platform, and I'm gonna
Yes.
go ahead and tag you in it so that way everybody knows where to follow you.
Yeah, so I can be found through my website, cleverjam.com. And I know Queen will type that up here on my info, but that's CLEVERJAM.com. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I'm under Jamerika Haynes-Lewis. And yeah, thank y'all so much and good luck to you all. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Go ahead and follow her, ladies. Jamerika, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. You are truly
Thank you.
amazing.